Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My apologies for any ICT issues that we've had this evening. We've been encountering some issues with Microsoft Teams this evening. Hopefully you've joined us and you've kind of stuck with us. I know we've been trying to resolve it in the background, and we now feel that we're that it is working, and you should be able to hear me, you should be able to see the presentation, and you should also be able to access the chat. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mr. Binns. I'm the assistant head teacher here at Ashby School. I oversee the inclusion department. I've also got with me this evening Mrs. Sever, who is one of the year team leaders, who's going to be responsible for year 10 when your child joins us in August. I'm sure you may have some of your children sat with you this evening who came into school today. Hopefully the feedback has been really positive. We've certainly had some really positive from our new year 6 students who've come today, as well as the year 9 students. And all students have said that they've had a really good day. They've enjoyed their lessons, they've enjoyed their learning, and they've liked being around the school and meeting the different members of staff. So this evening I'm just going to talk about some of the key areas, give you a bit of background about the school, talk about some of the expectations that we have, make some reference to the child's tutor that they will see, and also just give a couple of reminders and a couple of kind of key contacts in terms of members of staff as well. So like I said earlier, we've got 2 heads of years, 2 year team leaders. We've got Mr. Willoughby and Mrs. Sever, and they will be responsible for the day-to-day care of your children. And we've also got Mr. Cooper, who is the assistant year team leaders. Those may be members of staff that you're aware of, or your siblings, younger brothers, younger sisters, may have also been at the school, may have come into contact with those people as well. So I'm just going to talk about the role of the form tutor just to begin with. That's a member of staff that your child will see every single day, 8:45 till 9:05. They will get to know your child from a learning point of view and a progress point of view, but they'll also get to know them as young persons as well. What are their interests? What are their hobbies? And so that they can support them on their 2-year journey or their 4-year journey at Ashby School. They'll be the first point of contact for your child in school, and they'll also be the first point of contact for you if you have any concerns, anything that you need to raise with them. They will communicate with you on a regular basis. That mainly will be through email, but by all means, please ring up if you need to speak to them for them to be able to get back to you. And the form tutor will have a couple of different key roles, as well as kind of monitoring the progress that I'll talk about a little bit later. They will also be there to support in terms of uniform, ensure that they're correctly equipped, and making sure that they are ready to learn to go into their lessons after form time and ready to progress. So some of the things that the form tutor will do, the daily and weekly checks, making sure that they've got that equipment, making sure that they're organised, and if they're struggling with anything, making sure that they're able to provide that supportive wraparound package so that they can go into their lessons and learn, which is exactly what we want them to do. And they will obviously kind of offer like a mentoring role in anything that they're struggling with, just to keep them guided in terms of making sure that they come into the new school, making sure they're able to meet our expectations, and they learn and they progress like we would want them to do, and like I'm sure you would want them to do. So tutor time starts at 8:45 every day. The expectation is that the children will be at the door by that time. It's really important that children get into the really good habits of being punctual, and if students are late into school or they are late to form, then there will be sanctions put in place for that. Form time is split and we do a variety of different activities during the school week. Monday is typically our admin day for the form tutor, just going over the attendance and going any behaviour points from previous weeks, making sure that students know what their attendance is, making sure that students know their positive and their negative behaviours. We will typically touch on British values on a Tuesday, and then we will look at themed activities. And then on Friday, we'll give the opportunity for students to share their voice with the rest of the class in terms of debating, looking at topical issues that are going on in the country or going on internationally. We offer a cashless catering system at Ashby School, which will be very typical to what the children have had in their high schools. Children will be given a lanyard and a plastic case and their card when they come back to us in August and September. It's really important that children keep this card safe, making sure that it's just not put into their pockets and then they sit down and because they can crack. And students will be charged £2.50 if they do need to get a replacement card. It's really important that students wear their lanyard around their neck with our ID badge so that we can easily identify them either as a member of staff or a member of admin staff if they need to speak to a student. And it's also important when they're in the school canteen to make sure that the catering staff know know who they are when they're buying their food. Money can be put on via WisePay, and that information will be emailed out to you over the summer holiday, so you can set up your WisePay account and then you can put money on your child's account in order to buy things in school, whether that's uniform, whether that's revision guides or just their day-to-day lunch. I'm just going to hand over now to Mrs. Seba. She's just going to talk through some of the uniform slides and then it'll come back to me just to look at some of the other things in school.
Everybody, sorry for the late start again. So school uniform policy, please communicate with your child's form tutor if there are any issues with uniforms that can be handled appropriately. We do have support systems in place for genuine cases and we do have uniform that can be borrowed. Please check the uniform policy on our website. This is updated all the time to avoid confusion or conflict. Don't be led by what the student or young person says. It's up to date and any changes will always be sent out to parents first. So acceptable black trousers, you can see no external zip studs, buttons, labels, visible stitching. So no chinos, no jeans. If it's a trouser, it's normally made from polyester. Obviously, requirement is blazers, ties, jumpers, skirts, which come from a recognised suppliers, which have gone out in the induction packs. And there are people in tomorrow if you want to pop in and see the uniform. Acceptable male shoes must be black and polished. You will see on the bottom left that there is an Air Force One. This has been accepted by Dr. Mellor, which has loosened a little bit, but they must not have the tags. The tags must be removed, and this is non-negotiable. Those shoes are unacceptable, so trainers that are labelled and got logos on. Acceptable schoolgirls' shoes again need to be polished, and again the Air Force One comes in, but tags must be removed. Unacceptable shoes, canvas get wet, obviously logo trainers and high heels. Jewellery and makeup, we only allow sleeper or stud earrings, no big dangly earrings or big loop hoops, no excessive jewellery, so the chains that they might wear, and no piercings, no rings or no nose studs, no facial piercings. This is non-negotiable and this is in place currently. Students wearing excessive jewellery may be asked to remove it and be collected from the Year 10 office. And makeup again should be natural and minimal, and if it's over excessive, may be asked to remove it.
Okay, just going to come back to the classroom side of things. It's really important that your child is well equipped for when they come to us in August. Ensure that every single day that they're bringing the right equipment in their school bags. The expectation is that they have their pens, their pencils, their rulers, their rubbers, their sharpeners and their books for every single day. And I would really encourage your child to have a school bag that is fit for purpose and is able to hold their PE kit if they've got PE on a particular day, but it also keeps their books, the revision guides, any textbooks for particular courses and things like that. In terms of maths, calculators, there's an expectation that all students will have a calculator that is fit for purpose, that needs to be of GCSE standard, and that's not just for their maths lessons, but it's also for some of their other subjects such as business studies or such as some of their science lessons or PE GCSE. Students will be asked to get their calculator out, so it is one of the things that should remain in their bags pretty much every single day of the week. If you're unsure whether the calculator is the correct one, then please be in contact with us. Or if you go into WH Smith's or Tesco, you will see, and it'll be clearly labelled whether it's a GCSE calculator. So again, you should be able to work that out, but if you're unsure, then please come back to us. Students have accessed the canteen today in order to get their food. I think today was roast dinner day, so the students have been able to access that. We managed to get all of the students through in the first 20 minutes of lunch, which was really pleasing. So again, some students may go in there to begin with and see quite a large queue. Obviously, we're a very big school. We've got over 1,000 students on one site here. So there may be a bit of queue to begin with, but if students are patient, after about 15-20 minutes today, then there was no queue for their food. So again, please ask your child to be patient. They won't be able to just walk into the canteen and be able to be served straight away. There has to be an element of waiting. The children will have their lunchtime later on in the school day in August. For Year 10 students, they will be on lunch at the same time as our Year 7 students. Students, the expectation is that there's no food to be eaten in the school library because it's a working area, and likewise no food is to be consumed in lessons. Over the last few years, there's been an increase in the number of students wanting to have energy drinks. It's really, really important that you support the school in terms of that. They certainly don't help students to concentrate, and they certainly don't support their learning. So we would really encourage you not to purchase energy drinks for your child to bring into school for break or lunchtime. Our policy on mobile phones has changed, and we're in the process of working through that with our current Year 10 students. All our Year 6 students and Year 9 students who've joined us today and tomorrow, we have a blanket policy that there's no mobile phones to be seen in school. Students can bring mobile phones into school, but they must remain out of view of members of staff. So they need to be in bags, or they need to be in coats. Like I said, not visible to members of staff. Now that's been a change for our current year group, and we're working hard with them over the next week or so to make sure that they're in the same place come September. We're really, really keen to have your support in terms of mobile phone. I think there's been lots of kind of evidence put forward that they're not fit for purpose in terms of having them students to be using them between lessons, or students to be on them communicating with friends or communicating with other people. And from a pastoral point of view, mobile phones sometimes bring us a lot more problems inside of school than probably they need to. So please support us in terms of your child and their mobile phone, and ensure that if they do bring them into school, that they're not to be seen. So how do we monitor progress at Ashby School? We will do a grade sweep every term, and that information will go home to you. That will give you an indication of whether your child is on track in terms of their lessons. That will also lead into form tutor discussions in terms of conversation that may happen with your form tutor on a Monday morning with your child if they are struggling, if they're below targets in particular lessons or in a group of lessons. And we also will do a contact home from the form tutor, which will just give you a bit of an indication about how well they're doing in terms of their punctuality, how they're getting on in form time, have they settled, and also how they're doing in some of those subjects. That will then lead into a more kind of formal report, which will give you an indication in terms of target grades and their behaviour and their effort. And it will also lead into parents' evenings, and some of those will be face-to-face and some of those will be online, and that will give you access to class teachers in order to discuss individual progress for your children. If your child is ill, or if your child is going to be off school, it's really, really important that you tell us as soon as possible. Our phones are manned from 8 o'clock in terms of taking messages off telephones or answering emails. If your child is not going to be in school, you can see a couple of contacts there. That's the school telephone number, and it's also got our attendance officer email on there. So please contact us. And what is really important is that if your child is off school being ill, is that you do contact us on every single day of that illness. So we're absolutely clear that if your child is not going to be in school, but also why they're not going to be in school. Holidays, obviously, over the last few years with the pandemic, holidays have kind of varied quite a lot, and parents have had to rebook at different times of the year. The school is not in a position, and this is a blanket policy from the government in terms of authorising holidays during term time, and it is highly likely that the local authority will issue fines to parents, and that is both parents, in terms of that if holidays are taken during term time. It's not something that we can support, and I appreciate there are individual circumstances that sometimes, but it's not something that we're able to support as a school. If your child has an appointment during the school day, again, it's really, really important that information is fed into school by yourself, and that can be done either via the phone, just to the school number, or again, it can just be contacted to the Year 10 office, and again, those email addresses will be later on in this presentation. So again, if a child has got the appointment from a doctor or a dentist on their mobile phone, then it may be that we may ask to see that. But typically, if you can just email into the school, that's probably the easiest way. Then if you come to main reception, we will sign your child out and then they can leave. Again, another thing that is really important, that is if your child has an appointment in the afternoon, it's important that your child is in school in the morning. And likewise, if your child has an appointment in the morning, it's really, really important, if possible, that your child returns to school for the afternoon sessions. So those are our expectations that we have of children. There's nothing there that is necessarily negotiable. And I think we would just call it those are the basic things that we would expect students to be able to do in school in terms of uniform, to enter into classrooms, to make sure that the phone is off, making sure that students are ready to learn, making sure they've got the correct equipment to listen, to be respectful, to use appropriate language, and then when the lesson is over, is to leave the room and move towards their next lesson. So we have a rewards package in school for those students who are doing really well in terms of their effort, or in terms of their resilience, in terms of kind of being respectful in lessons and around the school site. And students will pick up positive points for a variety of different things, and that could be from their form tutor, it could be from their class teacher, or it could be from a member of staff who has seen them doing something really positive around the school. Now, those reward points can be cashed in for a variety of different things in terms of using in the cafeteria, towards revision guides, towards school trips, or they can just be asked to trade them into a variety of different vouchers that they can then spend online. So yeah, we have a rewards package. It'll be quite similar to what the students have probably had in their high school. But one of those things that we're working quite hard on is making sure that we're finding the rewards that the students really value, especially as they enter into the Key Stage 4 side of their education. In terms of sanctions, again, we follow a system quite similar to the high schools, in that students will receive a verbal warning and then they will progress through sanctions during the lessons. We certainly give students a lot of opportunities to correct their behaviour and to make the right decision, because we want the students to be engaged and to be learning in all of their lessons. However, sometimes if a student is struggling, or if a student is making poor choices, it may be that we have to introduce our school sanctions, which may be an after school detention, a lunchtime detention, or a break detention, or it could be that a student needs to be removed from a lesson for a period of time. Obviously, for more serious offences, it may be that a student is placed into our inclusion room, or it may be that they have to receive a suspension, a fixed term suspension from school. I spoke about punctuality earlier in terms of the 8:45 form time. It's obviously goes about saying that it's really important for students to be punctual to their lessons. If students aren't punctual to their lessons, then teachers will put that onto the system. And again, if minutes are accrued and they meet the various thresholds, then students will receive a sanction as well. If we are concerned about behaviour, then again, somebody will be in contact with you, and it may be that we invite you into school for a meeting, or it means that we maybe have a phone conversation, and so on. We ask that the students and parents sign our ICT acceptable use contract. That is one of the documents that went out to the students that they have been returning either today or tomorrow. It just ensures that the students are fully aware of what our expectations are when they're using ICT in school, and whether that's in a classroom or whether that's during break time, if they're using a computer in the library, or whether that's during lunchtime, or if they're accessing ICT at the end of a school day in our homework club, that the students ensure that they use it appropriately, they use our equipment appropriately, and thus. We offer a wide variety of clubs during their time at school. We offer Duke of Edinburgh, that I know has proved really popular with our students. Students are able to do the clubs after school. We've run a variety of sports clubs. We also run a variety of arts clubs and drama clubs and music clubs. So again, we would really encourage your children to get involved in the whole school things that we offer. Academic performance is obviously really important and crucial to the next steps, but we also expect students to get involved in some of the other things that we offer to the children in school. As children move through year 11 and they're applying to colleges or applying to sixth form, it's really nice to see students writing about in their personal statements of all the different things that they've got involved within the school life, and not just about the things that go on in the classroom. Our extracurricular activities are all available on our school website. So again, over the summer, or as we start back in August and September, please sit down with your children and have a look at those extracurricular activities and try and signpost them and point them in the right direction. If they've got particular interests, it could be something that they may want to get involved in. We have an independent careers advisor in school that will work with the students when they move into year 11. Some students may receive appointments at the end of year 10 if we think that's a really important thing for them to be able to need, and that will just give them an idea of some of the things that they may want support with in terms of application forms or CVs, or which college that they may be interested in going to, or are they going to move into sixth form, and which A-levels may be best, and what the different criteria they may need to meet to be able to do that subject. So this is a really important slide. This will give you a really good kind of a thorough list of email addresses and contacts for you to have if you need any support with any particular things in school. As you can see there, the 2 year team leaders, Mr. Willoughby and Miss Sever, those will be 2 key members of staff and their email addresses there. And likewise, you've got Mr. Cooper, who's the assistant team leader. We've also got a variety of different staff underneath those, our wellbeing officer and our medical needs officer, and then we've got some members of the leadership team, and then we've also got some of the support mechanisms in terms of our kind of our Senko, our pupil premium, and our absences information as well. Tomorrow night we have a face-to-face evening, so if any parents want to come in and ask specific questions for their children in terms of whether that's uniform, in terms of travel, or want to speak to any of our individual members of staff, like our Senko or our wellbeing officer, then by all means, please come into school tomorrow. That evening runs from 5 till 7 o'clock. Dr. Mellor is also available at 3 occasions during the evening just to speak to parents. If they want to come in and just speak to and listen to Dr. Mellor, just talk about the school and talk about the journey that your child will be on in the 2 years or the 4 years that are going to be there. So that's an optional evening. There isn't the opportunity, unfortunately, to meet the form tutors tomorrow night. But if you look at the list of members of staff there, and if you think you need to come in to speak to any of those members of staff, or you would just like to ask the question or put a face to somebody, then by all means, come into school at some stage between 5 and 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. I hope that has given some clarity to some of the things that we offer in school. Hopefully you found that information useful. This PowerPoint presentation will be going onto our school website, as will the link that will also be sent out to parents who haven't been able to join us this evening. If you do have any questions, then please drop us an email using those contact email addresses that I had on my previous slide. I'm just going to hand over to Mrs. Sever and then we will finish and say goodbye.
Thank you. We've just got a question because we're not sure about the technicality. We've got Mrs. Rundle Brown answering you live. So if somebody could just type and let us know if you've actually been seeing those questions and those answers in the chat, and that will help us. And if you haven't, apologies. And all those questions that have been answered will again be shared on the one that's put on the website. And thank you for your time and have a good evening.
So thank you for joining us this evening. Like I said, this link will be put onto our school website. Will also be emailed out to parents because we've had some parents who haven't been able to join us this evening. Take care and we will see you all come August. Thank you.